The Nexus is $69, the Sentan is $129, and the Sugimoto is $449. This video is going to be all about performance. I'm going to have all the specs of each of the knives below. I've got my cheat sheet, so I'm going to throw a couple of them out at you as we go along, but really what I want you to focus on here is how I use these knives. That way you can decide, do you need to spend $449 on the Sugimoto Chuka Bocho Japanese-made Chinese cleaver, or are you going to be totally set with the $70 Nexus that's stainless steel? You're going to decide, not me. I'm just going to show you what I've got here. So what I'm going to do is put each of these Chinese cleavers to work on the same type of ingredient, done with the same cutting technique. And I'm going to do a bunch of different things here today. I'm prepping dinner for the next 2 nights. I've got chicken down here, onions over here, some parsley. We're just going to pretend it's cilantro. How's a grocery store out of cilantro? We get our truck tomorrow. I got some red cabbage, some carrots, white mushrooms, bell pepper, and some green onion. I'm prepping for some type of fried rice dish that I'm going to make tonight and a pasta dish for tomorrow. So let's get to work. Okay. I'm going to get started with the Nexus here. Cheat sheet when I pick one up. Here we go. 7-inch stainless steel core, 3-layer clad construction, a real walnut wood handle, a brushed stainless steel ferrule. This is made in China. It comes with a sheath. It has a 58 to 60 Rockwell hardness. And as I mentioned, it comes in at $69. Let's get started with, I'm going to prep things in order of dirtying up my cutting board. So let's get started with the mushrooms here. And I've got some chicken and onions. They will be last because, well, it'll be less to clean and to stink up my whole studio smelling like those onions. Okay, so the first type of cutting technique that I'm going to do here will be the tap chop. Now, a lot of Chinese cleavers you will see used in a push chop type of motion where you're coming down on an angle up and down into the product. I like doing the tap chop. It's one of my personal favorites because of how quick I can do it. But when I'm not doing the tap, I'm generally doing the push. And I would say that the type of cut that I do the least would be the rock chop. Oops. You know what? Let's put this back here out of the way, but on display, as they say. All right. Now, the reason that I'm showing 3 different completely drastic price points here, we go from doubling the price to basically tripling the price, is because, you know, a lot of brands and retailers, they try and sell you the top of the line. And the reality is, when it comes to knives, spending more doesn't mean that you're getting what you actually need. So we want to make sure that you are getting what you need and that you're not going to get a $450 knife that you're going to use 2 times. You're going to crack the edge or rust it because you're not familiar with how to potentially take care of it or even how to use it and on the right surfaces as well. So, you know, just because it's more expensive doesn't mean that it is the best choice. All right, let's get all these off to the side here. I've got a lot to prep. I'm going to have mushrooms flying everywhere here. Don't matter. Here we go. Tap chop. Pinch grip, okay? The ferrule on here, or bolster, I mean, call it whichever you like, ferrule. It's comfortable. What I also like about the way these Chinese cleavers are, it's unlike a regular chef's knife. You can get like really high up on the blade and it still feels comfortable. So this feels pretty good to me right here, and here we go. One thing that's nice about a stainless steel blade is that it can handle a bit more abuse. It also can be left out wet for a while and it's not going to stain or rust or even patina. And they're just very hard. So basically the way it was explained to me is if you have a stainless steel blade that has a Rockwell hardness of 58 to 60 like this one compared to a carbon steel blade with the same Rockwell hardness, that the stainless steel will actually do better in the sense of the amount of abuse that it can handle. The other thing that's really nice about stainless steel or even a polished high carbon, this one here has a stainless steel cladding. So for a smaller product like this, you'll feel it, but the stainless steel throughout, it just flows, or not stainless steel, the polished finish, it just flows through product, whereas certain knives with different finishes can tend to grip onto things, like for example, this Damascus that has this deep etching and almost a matte type of finish. It just makes it challenging. So when it comes to any type of blade that's this big, if you're planning on using it in any type of fast motion, then I would definitely recommend making sure that you at least have the cladding like you do here, where it's brushed at the bottom, or the entire thing is brushed and polished. Okay, I mean, it feels good. One of the good things about a Chinese cleaver as well is that you can use it as a bench scraper. In fact, I brought 2 bench scrapers up with me and I'm probably not even going to use them. That feels good. Let's go to the Sentan, also made in Japan. Where'd my cheat sheet go? Come on guys, what'd you do with it? Okay. Sentan, 8 inches, hand forged. You have white carbon steel core, stainless cladding, maple wood handle, an exposed bent tang, stainless steel ferrule, $129, 59 to 60 Rockwell hardness. Both of these 2 of the 3 that I have here are traditional and original Chinese cleavers because they are both coming from China. I would say the most traditional would be this because of the blade finish, unlike the stainless steel Nexus here. Both have the rounded barrel handles with the stainless. This one is brushed, this one is polished, ferrule. Yeah, they're great. Okay, here we go. Bit of a weight difference. Obviously, this is a heavier blade because it is longer and it is a bit taller as well. Not by much, but just enough. So you can definitely feel the weight. So when it comes to a heavier cleaver like this is a lot of knife to move around. The tap chop is, you can feel the resistance more. I hope I turned this microphone on. Did I do this again? Yes, it's on. Okay. The other day I recorded a whole video and forgot to turn my mic up top there on, which I've got this one and that one doesn't have a mic. So I had to sync the lip movement with the sound of the others. It was not fun. Anyway, so it's a heavier blade. So that tap chop for something real small off the cutting board like this, in the sense of the height that it gets off the cutting board, it feels fine. But if you are going to get a heavier blade, you may want to go a little bit slower and do the push chop. It seems like you're moving more, but the way you're moving your whole arm, literally from your shoulder joint, compared to all at the wrist, it makes a difference in the sense of just arm-hand fatigue. So keep that in mind. This is going through very easily because of the polished edge. It's great. Now, yeah, if I were to go back and forth between these 2, let's do a little push here. Even though this is lighter, at the push chop, it doesn't feel that much different. But with the tap, lighter blade, lighter knife, smaller blade, definitely has a better feel to it. Okay, let's get the Sugimoto. This is the longest of the 3. coming in at 8.7 inches. Now, I lost my cheat sheet again. How did I do this? Okay. This is a Chuka Bocho because it is Japanese made. Chuka Bocho translates to, you guessed it, Chinese Cleaver. So here we go. Sugimoto, number 6 carbon steel. This is hand forged. We have white carbon steel core, a soft iron cladding. The handle is natural wood. I don't know what type of wood because it didn't say in the specs. Stainless steel bolster, a 62 to 63 Rockwell hardness, and coming in at $449. This blade, although it has the highest Rockwell, does not mean that the blade is more durable. In fact, of these 3 knives, this is the least durable in the sense of if you tweak this wrong or hit it on a bone or do what I did a couple weeks ago and spatchcock a turkey and put this on the bone and totally destroy the edge. Here's a photo if you don't believe me. Yeah, I did that. I did it intentionally because I wanted to see how delicate this could be. And then I spent about an hour and a half sharpening this blade on 3 different grits of whetstone, putting it on the strop, and I brought it back to life. I did it completely in the name of science, knife science. So it's the most expensive. This will patina, this will rust, and it's also the least durable of these 3. So this is for a very particular type of person that won't do what I did a couple weeks ago. But if you do, you need to know how to sharpen your own knives so that you can fix your mistakes. Okay, here we go. Let's do the tap. Definitely heavy. I mean, the other one was heavy. This one, you know, sometimes a knife you feel it when you're pulling it up, but you also feel it coming down. The Sentan, I could feel the weight difference coming up, but I didn't feel like I was holding the knife back. It just kind of flowed when it came down. However, with this one, I can feel myself actually stopping it from going as fast downward. So I am using my strength, so to speak, as I'm going up and down with this instead of just up like the Sentan. Push chop. That's what this knife loves. This and the Sentan. A lot of people do not like to tap chop with Japanese knives because of the fine edge. I just got used to doing it with the German knives that I spent over a decade with, that I gained just confidence with and beat the crap out of, and it was totally fine. So I do this with Japanese blades. There's a little bit of a different feel. So when you're tap chopping, you were literally going straight down. Whereas when you are push chopping, you're coming on an angle. So when you hit the cutting board, you're getting a little bit more of a forward slicing motion at the same time. So with that, it's, I would imagine, not as hard on the blade than just a tap chop like that. So do what you want. At the end of the day, if you learn how to use a whetstone, you can bring your knives back to life. If you're going to invest in a knife like this that's $450, then you should know how to use, I'm looking down here because that's where I have my sharpeners. You should know how to use a whetstone, and you know, that's that. Now, the good thing about these knives is if you get yourself the $69 Nexus, you can experiment and practice sharpening your blade because it's 69 bucks. Like, I mean, worst case, you know, and especially at this lower Rockwell, you mess it up. What do? You try again until you get it right. It's that simple. Okay, last little bit here. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be prepping all day not all day, but for hours at a time, let's say a couple hours, I would not want to be prepping with this knife going into something where I'm constantly tap chopping. That would be exhausting. Let's clean off my blades here. Every time you are working with any type of carbon steel blade, you need to wipe it down, at least rinse it between product, but even if you just give a quick little wipe down with a wet rag and then a dry rag like that, it's going to extend the life of the knife. Well, it's not going to extend the life of it, it's just going to prevent it from getting all rusted, because you can always bring that back to life. Okay, mushrooms, done. Next up here, let's do some bell pepper. I'm gonna get started actually with the Sugimoto here. With the bell peppers, if you aim, this one doesn't have as big of a divot. Okay, so you can see how the pepper sinks in at the stem right here. If you try and aim your first slice at the top here, just at right here on the stem, you can generally get completely usable product. Okay, so totally usable. There's my discard. Where's my discard bowl? I think I put that in the wrong one. All right, I'll just use my trash can. I don't have a bag in it, so I'll have to take it out and clean it. All right, so now you have completely usable product here. You pull out your seeds, pull out the pith the best you can, give it a little tap, get the seeds out. Now you can cut off the bottom, completely usable. And from here, you can go into whatever your cut is going to be. For this, I'm going to do more of a bâtonnet, roughly 1/4 inch wide strips with something like this, tap chop. I'm sorry, push chop. Here we go. So what I can say is with something like a pepper here that's a little bit firmer than the mushroom, it's really low off the cutting board, that push chop is easier with the heavier Chinese cleaver. Like I actually had to put a little bit of force into that cut with the Sentan. Same thing with the Nexus. Both of these just cut basically the same. This knife almost felt a little bit sharper because of the weight. It's just, I mean, it just feels good. Yeah, it's crazy how different the three of these are. Oh man, I already see. I got a thing for the Sugimoto because I like big heavy knives. I always have. Definitely a winner right now for push chopping, I would say. All right, let's see if we can get this one. All right, that one was like kind of a little funky higher up, so we'll just come in. Get that. Come on. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Definitely a more nimble feel with the Sentan because of the weight as well as the shorter blade. The bottom here. Yeah, this is a more workable knife for long periods of prep, for sure. Now, keep in mind, these are not meat cleavers. This is a meat cleaver. Often have the hole right there so you can hang it. The edge is blunted. I mean, I could cut myself a little bit, but I'd really have to push. It would be more of like a crushing of the skin than a slicing of the skin. This is meant to hack through bones, frozen food, gourds, pumpkin squash, things like that. So keep in mind that although these may look similar in shape, they are completely different knives. Okay. See, that felt good. Okay. So this one needs a little hone. I can feel it grabbing. There's something with pepper skin that makes a big difference in the sense of just how it goes in. Okay. I'm just going to cut one of these. Here we go. Yep. It's all I needed was a little bit of a tune-up. Good to go. All right, here we go. Let's move on to, so we did our tap chop, our push chop. Now we're going to kind of do a little bit of both. I want to do a brunoise. I also don't want to spend a bunch of time, so I'm only going to do a little bit here. So I'm not going to do the perfect, everything's uniform brunoise. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm cooking for myself type of brunoise. So I'm going to break this down into about 1/8 of an inch wide slices. Turn these into a julienne. And turn them sideways and into a brunoise-ish. They're not going to be perfect. I don't want them to be perfect. It's for fried rice. You notice how I'm actually going tip down and coming back into the blade? It's basically because I'm trying to keep these from flying everywhere, and I have more stability with my thumb here than I do with my pinky. So the cut coming from the front is actually helping me keep the carrot sticks stabilized. Because if I were to go the other way, like this, I would end up pushing those carrots away from my pinky. All right, not bad for a quick little brunoise. One of the good things about a Chinese cleaver is you can use the front as well as the spine, depending, because of the handle. Sometimes you'll get a gap right here. But if that's the case, you can use the tip or the front of it to move product around. And then you can come in, scoop it all up, and get right into your mise en place container. And you can also use it to clean off your fingers. Let's go with the Sentan next. Same type of thing. First cut there is just to now allow me to have a stable flat base, so I'm not working on a rounded product. God, it's interesting how different. I mean, the carrot pieces that I just did were roughly the same size. It just felt very different. And that honestly has to do with the fact that that blade is polished all throughout. There's just a little bit of an extra resistance with a blade that has that more matte-like texture and finish to it. Got to slow down. Yeah, very different with this carrot here. See, I'm keeping all this in. You're getting to see these knives being used in different ways, and you can just think, am I ever going to do that? Are you ever going to do this? If not, maybe the challenges that I tend to be having with this one right now aren't going to be a concern. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how to explain it other than it's like yeah, there's just a little bit of extra resistance, even though I'm not going well above the polished area here. There's just something about the kind of like the grip that this blade has compared to the others. So something to keep in mind. All right, let's go to the Sugimoto here. And I've been using the top of each of the carrots. So, okay, this flat area to work with. Not only is this smooth like the Nexus, I've got that weight that I'm allowing to help me as I'm cutting. Using the tip of the blade there is very different. What I can say with this, the fine acute angle of the edge here is definitely more noticeable than these other two. So again, it is a higher Rockwell, but it is a finer edge. I'm not sure exactly what this is ground to, but it catches in the cutting board. It's like, okay, I'm here and it's snug. It doesn't even want to go forward at all with that type of cut, which it's interesting. It's almost like it's its own, I don't know why I just did that, because I wanted to use the spine. Oh, this one stays flush. Okay, perfect. So this one stays flush. If you want to use the edge of the blade and you get a little bit of scrape on your edge there, listen, you're going to be totally fine. You know, what kind of inspired this video? For the past month and a half, I have been falling to sleep to Japanese and Chinese ASMR cooking videos on YouTube, where they basically will open up a restaurant. There's no dialogue. There's no, well, I turn subtitles off. When they are speaking in a language I don't understand, I don't care. I don't want to hear what they're talking about. I just want to hear the noises. And then every single restaurant has Chinese Cleavers or Chuka Bochos, the Japanese version. And I got to tell you, not a single restaurant, not a single chef or cook that I saw in the past 6 weeks does not do this and move product around with the edge of their blade, because they all know how to sharpen them, they hone them, and some of them, their cleavers are actually ground on an angle like this from so much abuse. But listen, if you want to turn this around, use the spine or use the front or grab a bench scraper or just use your hands, that's totally fine. But if you want to use your blade as a tool, in which it is, to move product around, go for it, as long as you know how to bring your blade back to life when needed. Here we go. Also, notice that I am now cutting forward into this, and the reason why is, unlike the Nexus that I used first there, where when I was going forward, the front was kind of flailing out a little bit, therefore I was coming back like this. The acute edge of this Sugimoto, it's so fine that it's going through the product without pushing it before it's slicing it. It's just immediately slicing. So yeah, there's a huge difference between these three knives. I hate the fact that the one that's the most expensive is the one that I'm enjoying the most. It's like the other two, So Sugimoto makes different types of Chuka Bochos. They have stainless steel blades that are less expensive. They also have blades that have different widths to the spine, therefore the edge, different weight, different length. Whereas with these two, this is what we've got. And so you may, if you want to spend, $200, $300 and you're willing to go up a little bit, you may want to look at some of the other Sugimotos that are a little bit less expensive. However, I will tell you this, I would never spend this much money. Actually, I probably wouldn't even spend the $130 on the Sentan had I never used a Chinese Cleaver before. I would go with this all day, stainless steel, $69. It's your practice blade. If you grow out of this and you want to upgrade to something like this or the Sentan, then you go for it. But in the sense of if you've never used a blade like this, it doesn't matter if it's going to feel heavy, it's going to feel bulky, it's going to feel completely different than what you're used to. So you might as well go with what's cheaper and then upgrade from there. And then let's say you get this or this. This is your beater cleaver. This is the one that if you've got some, bones you want to hack away at, you go for it. You just then sharpen it and you fix it. Don't tell anyone I said to do that. I'm gonna get in trouble. All right, next up, let's go with let's get rid of you. See, I'm up in a spare, well, this is technically the extra living room. Yeah, I don't have like a normal kitchen space up here. All right, let's do some purple cabbage. That's gonna dye my board. So let's actually go with these next. Okay, green onions or scallions. I forgot to clean off the tips. See you later. I have been eating a lot more green onions lately because regular onions raw, for whatever reason, they stick with me for like 4 days. Unless they're cooked. I'm good with them cooked, but that's it. All right, so we're gonna go on a little bit of a bias here, and I'm gonna get started with the root ends, the white part, and I'm gonna start with the Sugimoto because it's in my hand. Push chop. One of the things that's also great about the Chinese Cleaver is it has a lot of surface contact to the cutting board, especially in the center. Some of these are going to be more curved in the center. Some are going to be more towards the back. This one definitely has the most drastic curve, as in it has the least amount of surface contact in the center there. The Sugimoto, because it's the longest, has a bit more. So the push chop is better for something like this where you have a lot more product. Because even with the Sugimoto, my surface contact with this is really only about here to there. So if I were tap chopping with this, one, it would be more dangerous because of the type of product I'm working with here. But I would end up with pieces that aren't fully cut. So when you're doing this push chop and I'm coming down on an angle and I'm getting that little bit of slice, I'm not left with product that has not fully been separated. Okay. The weight, the push chop, it feels good. Let's go with the Sentan here. Notice that as I am moving down the product, I'm kind of walking my fingers, so I'm not lifting up and then separating because then everything would fall out of my grip. So you just kind of bulk everything up. Let's bring you back here. So this feels great. The carrots, something was off. This just feels fantastic. I also got 2 bunches of green onion here. So the green onion or scallions that I have access to are little babies like this, whereas the ones that I see on the videos that I watch, which I will link a couple below, at the very end of the description, I'm going to link some of these videos or the accounts that I've been falling asleep to because they're just, I love them. They're awesome. I've learned a lot too. It's also cool when I look up, I'm like, oh, I've got that knife. I've seen some Tojiro. I have seen some Muratakas, the Sugimoto. I don't know if I saw the Sentan or not, because this is just very, very traditional for a Chinese cleaver. You'll see a lot that look like this. All right, let's go to the Nexus here. I do see a lot of stainless steel cleavers though, and you can tell because they're used, but there's no patina like the Sugimoto will get. Okay. All right, loving the lightweight. So for this, yeah, the lightweight, I'm gonna split these because I am getting way too close to my pinky here. Now let's do a little rock chop. It's my least favorite. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Walking my fingers back. And in the videos that I watch, the push chop is definitely the most common cutting technique. Doesn't matter whether it's Chinese, Japanese, Taiwanese, you name it, the videos that I've been watching, you see just push chop galore. And let's wrap these up here. I want to go back to this Sentan and make sure now that I've got like a smaller bunch here. Yeah. So for whatever reason, those carrots just gripped onto this knife. And a rock just to see, yeah, I just don't like it. Maybe for something small like that at the very end, that's okay. All three of these were fantastic for that style of cutting. So I would say it's a easy breezy little decision if you're eating a lot of green onion, or if you're mincing or chiffonading a bunch of herbs, then any one of these will do. I mean, any one of these will do for everything you do in the kitchen for the most part. When you've got three right next to each other like I do, I'm picking these things apart because I can, and I'm just being brutally honest with you because I don't want you to think that I'm necessarily trying to sell you one over the other. I think I know where my favorite is, but I don't think that it would be my favorite in every instance. So, as in the Sugimoto. I just like big knives. It's cool. This prep that I'm doing here is definitely going to, oh yeah, so look, that, that tiny little bit of time that I left that sitting there has already started to discolor this blade. I don't know if I want to say rust, but definitely discolor compared to what I started with. So you saw that. Maybe this spent 10 minutes. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if I would call that a rust spot or not. That's a stain on the towel, but there you go. This is definitely changed. Let me get the right angle here. And oh, I'm blinding you. There we go. So you can see some of this right here. This was not there. So just that, I don't know, 10 minutes or so that this sat there, not wiped down and dried, it already started to change color, which to me personally, I love. I want the patina. I don't want it to rust, but I gotta tell you, if you're gonna get this knife, as soon as you're done with it, you're going to wipe it clean and make sure that it's dry. There you have it. This Nexus, I mean, you could let this thing sit out and air dry and it's going to be totally fine. You could probably have an ever-flowing drip of water on it for days and it would be totally fine as well. See, everything has its pros and its cons. That is for sure. What's up? What's next? Let's do carrots. I'm done with. This I'm done with. I'll cut the rest of those later. That's going to dye my board green. This is going to dye my board purple. So I should probably get my onions done. And then we'll do the herbs because that's going to get mixed in with that. And then I'll flip the board. We'll do some chicken and we'll wrap this up. Okay, onions, tap chop galore. It's my just favorite way. Here we go. Lightest blade, super polished all the way through. I think I got 3 onions here, so they get 2 each. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm doing much more with this than I would with my 10-inch chef's knife or even a 9-inch Giotto, something like that. Something like this here. It just feels the fluidness of the motion. Feels good. Okay. Sentan. Definitely heavier. I feel that. I feel the grip on the onion. So once you get above that first, like probably less than 1/2 of an inch, that's where I can feel that grip coming in. So for this blade, push chop. Less resistance, less of that grip. It's still there. It's just not like the tap chop there. So if you are, pretty exquisite with your knife skills and you can blast through an onion julienne and tap chop like that, then, keep that in mind. And that's with any knife that has that. And I say matte because there's different names for the different types of finishes, but it's textured, it's matte, it's not polished. So here's the Sugimoto with the tap chop. Goes through easily. Heavy. Push. So much easier. Woo! See? Because the bottom blew out. This one's got a little, man. I have cut myself in a video, but I wasn't using the knife. I was like moving it around. But the day will come when I'm going to get myself a stitch-worthy slice. Hopefully it's not today. Yeah, so you see how unstable this is? Not good. So I'm going to slow down. And now, ready? I'm going to stabilize this the onion. And now, yeah, so it's funny. This just dug into the cutting board and almost felt like it was stuck for a minute there because of the edge on this being so fine. So here's the deal with the Sugimoto at this length, 8.7 inches. I don't think that this is the best for the tap chop. Maybe if you're doing a little bit of garlic and you want to do that, but even then it just stuck into my board. This has such a fine edge, it just wants to go through everything. So tap chop, I would say maybe here and there. It probably also depends on your cutting board. I believe this is a walnut board. It's pretty hard, but it's not ridiculously hard. So actually a softer wood may be better because it would go in without it like closing in on it. I may be totally wrong there. Stick to your push and you could get a little bit of rock with this. You could do so the rock chop doesn't feel right either. Push chop. Honestly, I think the push chop is the best across the board. It's the knife cut that everyone should learn day one of culinary school instead of the rock chop. I think the rock chop develops lazy habits. And yeah, I only ever did the tap and the rock because I used German knives forever. But once I started getting into the Japanese knives, I'm telling you, it's all about the push. I'm just making sure that my cameras are Still good on time. 54 minutes left over there. 56 minutes left over there. We're groovy. All right, we're almost done here. Let's get some of this going. I'm gonna wipe this down so I don't mess her up. Gosh. Yeah, I'm torn right now. I really am. That's why I wanted to show all three of these, so I don't have to be the one to decide which one you're going to get. I'm not just showing you one and saying, buy this, it's on sale. Even though I think this one's on sale right now. Whatever. Okay, one thing that's cool. Now I'm on like I should have cut it the other way because it's relatively flat. One thing that's interesting about working with a blade that's this tall is that when you get into product, it actually helps stabilize the knife. So whether you are cutting something on an angle like this, like filleting out the flesh of a pepper, once I get this into the blade, it is stabilizing it. Instead of you having to aim to go dead straight, this will stay straight for you. And let's see if I can get one more slice out of this. See, I was able to get through that whole thing, whereas if I were to use a thinner blade, your natural tendency would be to dive in or pop up. So this helps stabilize your blade for more intricate cuts like this, being the paysan pepper. So you cut these real small, and then you can do these different shapes for a garnish. And since they're so thin, if you are cooking them, you're gonna like finish something off. A little bit of butter, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds, boom, you're ready to plate. It's just a cool little garnish. Okay, let's cut these into quarters. I can feel that grip. Yeah, it is a night and day difference. Complete night and day difference with that type of edge. Come in on an angle here, cut these out. And I shouldn't have this on my board. All right. This is going to be interesting because it's the tallest product that I have to work with. Cabbage can be pretty firm. So let's just do push. Slowing down. And now look, I'm not worried about these being different sizes. Now I've got a more stable base. Yeah, I'm not even going to worry about that last little bit there. Big difference. Telling you, big difference with that stainless steel blade. Even just cutting that in half, I could feel the grip of that Sentan. Not worried about that one. We'll see. Let's go. So I feel it more with this coming up out of the product than going in. And the reason why is because I'm coming so high up off the cutting board, probably 2.5, 3 inches, that the weight of this and the force coming down is giving me more momentum. So I'm not feeling it. But when I slow down with the push chop there, I definitely feel more resistance. Yep, and that being lower. I'm not gonna cut myself. Not today, I'll take that little extra wide piece there. I like to, basically what I'm gonna do with this tonight, I'm gonna make some fried rice with the scallions, the carrot, and I'm going to small dice those peppers. I just didn't want to have like a 3-hour long video. And then I'm going to, actually I might use everything for tonight. Saute the cabbage, the onions, caramelize the onions, the mushrooms, this all together. Rice, cooked veg. I've got a little cucumber salad left over with some ginger, garlic, rice wine vinegar, toasted sesame oil and some cilantro that I had from the other night. So that on top. And then I'm going to just saute some chicken real thin, a little garlic, a little ginger. It's going to be good. Okay, let's get this off my board. Wipe this down. Okay, so yeah, everything's going to be for stir fry. Fried rice and stir fry. Sugimoto, here we go. Let's do the tap. Just 'cause I know it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Don't like it. It's digging into the board. So again, Sugimoto, push chop. This, the weight, I feel like I have a bit more accuracy as I totally missed one. Yeah, as you tap at different parts of this knife, it kind of changes a bit. God, it's so, even that little bit there that I was able to get through without collapsing the layers, it's such a fine ass edge. Look at that fine ass edge. Here we go. One more with the Suji, but we're just going to do push. Get to that high point, slow down a little bit. Bring it down this way. Oop, that was, all right, let's see what we can finish this off with. A little slower. Okay. Push chop, use the weight, dry it immediately, have the budget. This is your knife. Tap chop, push chop, slides through pretty much everything. Budget, easy to maintain. Budget, easy to maintain. Did I mention the budget aspect and how easy this is to maintain? Most traditional. Push chop. Going to be easy to maintain because this does have stainless core and clad. Your edge may patina a little bit. Yeah, you'll see a little patina on the edge here at the top, but it shouldn't rust. Looks cool. Take your time. If you take your time when you're prepping and you're not going wicked fast, then this is totally fine. But if you like to work with a bit of pace, then I would go with one that has the polished edge, whether it's the stainless steel or the high carbon, or if you get a stainless steel Sugimoto that will also work. Similarly, you can get a different size, a little bit bigger than that Nexus. Listen, being honest with you, that's an awesome blade. It really is. It's just, for my style of cutting, I would say that I want something that's a bit more polished. And again, that's not just for these knives, that's for pretty much everything. All right, I'm going to wash off my hand and rinse these blades, and then we're going to mince some parsley because I didn't have cilantro, slice up some chicken, and wrap this up. Be right back. It even grips onto the towel when you're drying it. If you like grippy knives or you like this type of finish and you're used to it, then go for it. I think it's a badass blade. Again, this is just personal preference. Where this really shines is the angle of the edge. My guess is this is like 9 degrees and the other two are probably in like that 12 to 15 degree mark. All three of these are double bevel, so the bevel has nothing to do with it. It's just how How fine is that fine ass blade? Put you back here. All right, some parsley. We're going to do a little bit of a mince here. We're going to get started with the Nexus, so I can use that and then wipe it down right away. So we're going to get started here, just bunching these up. Push chop. Easy breezy. I can feel the resistance. Yep. Viva la resistance. I'm hardly putting any weight down on this at all. I am simply just letting the blade do the work. Notice I'm not pivoting. I'm coming up and down, and then I'm moving. Now, normally, if I was using I'll do it with the Nexus. Normally, if I was using like my German chef's knife, I would be rocking like this and pivoting real hard, which I do not want to do with this blade because I know what would happen. But with the lower Rockwell stainless steel, you can get into a really nice cross chop with this Nexus. So this right here, if you're mincing a lot of herbs and you want a knife that you can just abuse a little bit in a good way, it's tough. It's like tough love. There's still love there. Can't get quite that seesaw effect if I hold it down here. A little bit slower I can. Blade's a little short. This were maybe 2 inches longer. 9 inches, you can get a really nice seesaw. Let's give this a go. Yeah, this one, same Rockwell, totally fine to pivot like this. I don't feel the blade gouging into the cutting board, or sometimes you can literally hear your blade like micro fracture when you're pivoting it like this. So keep that in mind. All right, mincing. I would say if you want a quick mince, then those two are going to be what you're going to go with. But if you are looking to get some fine herbs, then I would be push chopping like this with the Sugimoto, or doing a light tap like that. The reality is, if you have this knife, you have plenty of other knives to mince your fresh herbs with. So can it do it? Yes. Will it take a little bit longer? Yes. You got to go a little bit slower? Yes. Is it worth doing those things to protect your blade? Yes. Notice how low my spine is when I'm using this as a bench scraper. It's because of that fine edge. If I were to come up a bit like that, it would be gouging in. So, note to self. All right, one more quick little rinse here. Ooh, just sliced my sponge open with the Sentan. Hey! This knife has literally changed its face and its back from the beginning of this video, which I love. It's not rust spots on it, but you can definitely tell that this got a workout today, which is awesome. Got a workout when I hack that turkey open too. That's for sure. I'm ready. I got some chicken. So I'm going to clean these up a little bit and then slice them. Always feel around for little bits of cartilage like that right there, pull it out. Sometimes you get little pieces of the rib bones. So what I'm going to be doing with this is slicing it thin, using the tip of the blade so I can pull through without having a bunch of chicken stick to the side of the knife. Now, a lot of people just take their chicken breast and they just cut it this way. But if you look at the graining of the muscle up close, you can see it's actually more on an angle like this. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to salt, pepper, oil, a little bit of rice wine vinegar, hit these in my cast iron or my new wok if it comes here today. Super high heat, cook them fast, finish them off with a little bit of ginger and some garlic. Let that cook for like 20 seconds. Bing, bang, boom, done. Here we go. The Nexus. Ooh, that's smooth. I mean, that feels good. I'm actually, now that I'm getting into the body, I'm going to use more of the whole blade. This is kind of a push down, pull back. Push down, pull back. So that would be obviously a slice, but just explaining the motion there. Yeah, this feels real good. And even though I am getting chicken that is building up on the side of the blade, I don't feel it. And it's probably because of the fact that the knife is already heavy to begin with. All right. So there is I'm going to put this over here so I don't dirty my board. Let's get the big boy here. Actually, we're going to save the big one for the biggest knife. This is the Sentan. So I got a little bit of bone there. Just going to come in here on an angle. Get rid of that. Trim off some of this fat. Generally cook it and give it to the dogs. Look for my graining. And we're going to go this way to start with this. Here we go. Okay, this is interesting. This is the smoothest that this knife has felt going through anything. Interesting. So, who would have thought that raw chicken would be what this just effortlessly goes through? Oh my. I did not expect that. That's really interesting. Pleasantly surprised by that. Well, all right. Sugimoto. Gosh, I mean, I didn't have to put any force on that. That just went right through. Here we go. I mean, I didn't have to trim that off, but you know, it's like, hey, there's some extra calories there. Got to keep my shape for camera. Here we go. Kind of doing a push on this to start with because I'm curious. The length is awesome, especially for this bigger piece. This push type of slice that I'm doing is pretty effortless. That fine blade, even in those little pointed areas like I just did there, it went through instead of pulling it back on a weird angle. I mean, this is it's a stellar knife. What can I say? Yeah. Getting a little uneven here of the piece, but we're good. Okay. Final thoughts. I won't keep you here for those extra 3 breasts. I will cut those up in a minute. Final thoughts. Look at that. Clean hand. $69, the Nexus. Stainless steel, 7 inches. You can't go wrong with this knife. It glides through product. It is light enough to tap chop with. It's great for the push chop. You saw you can put this on a pivot with a mince because of the fact that it's stainless steel and it has a lower Rockwell hardness, so it's going to hold up. It also doesn't have as fine of an edge as the Sugimoto. Traditional barrel-shaped handle, stainless steel ferrule, OG Chinese Cleaver coming from China, $69. Sentan. I struggle with this one because of my personal cutting style. I like to go quickly. I also like to do a tap chop, which I can get over. The thing with this is the finish has some grip to it. If you're not moving at the pace that you saw me, this will be totally fine. You're not going to feel it because when I slow down with this, I don't feel it as much. But when I'm going faster, I definitely feel it. You've got stainless cladding. It's going to be, you're going to have to take care of it more, a little bit more to maintain than the Nexus, but this will patina along the edge. I can see it already, but it should not rust. Similar Rockwell hardness as the Nexus, barrel shaped. You got the ferrule, a little bit longer. $129. This is for a particular type of person with a particular pace. That's the best way that I could describe this blade. Between the two, honestly, I would save the money and get this and another knife for the same price. Or buy 2 of these because it's roughly the same. Personal opinion here. The opinions in this video do not represent Cutlery more. Although I guess they do because I represent Cutlery more. Anyway, next up, the Sugimoto Chuka Bocho Japanese-made Chinese Cleaver. It has the finest edge. It is going to require the most amount of maintenance and care because of the high carbon steel that will patina through a prep and will easily rust. The edge is so fine, it almost wants to slice my cutting board in half. Tap chop, I would not recommend because of the weight and because of the fine edge on here. You're going to destroy it a lot faster. Push chop, it's stellar. It glides through product even easier than the Nexus because you've got the weight behind it. At the push chop, you do not feel the weight as much. Even with the Sentan, you don't feel it as much because you're using your whole arm compared to using just the wrist and a little bit of your elbow for the tap chop. $449. Most people should not get this knife. That's the reality. Is this a workhorse blade? Yes, if you can be a workhorse at maintaining it. You're going to definitely have to sharpen this more often than these two. And it's going to be harder to sharpen because of the Rockwell 62 to 63 of this knife. So these are 3 Chinese Cleavers that are on a spectrum of prices. They're on a spectrum of the fluidness in how they move through product. And they are on a spectrum of care, maintenance, and knowledge of sharpening. So there you have it, folks. I'd say this is probably one of the most thorough and honest videos. Not that I'm dishonest in the other ones, but I'm being too honest by talking about the things that I don't like or do like about them. So I hope you appreciate that, and you can tell that, well, you could see it in the way I was cutting things. You could see probably even my face change, and just like there's some reservation with the Sentan going at a faster pace. But then I sliced up the chicken, and I would say that the Sentan probably may have sliced the chicken the easiest. So you just got to think about what you're using these knives for, how you like to prep, where your knife skills are at, and your comfort with different cutting techniques. Obviously, your budget, all things need to be considered. But there you go. 3 Chinese cleavers that are all completely different, and they are definitely for different types of people. I think that does the trick. I'm Chef Brandon with Cutlery More. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope you were able to dial in which Chinese cleaver you would like to get next, or to add to the other Chinese cleavers you have, or whatever. That's it. I'm done talking. It's been a long video. Thanks for joining. Oh, there it is. There's just this slight little, it kind of changes based off, there it is. Oh, it just, on a little bit of an angle, and there's this like lift off